Oh, Texas. Oh, fantastic. What part of Texas, Mary? Okay, Pearland. Interesting. Yeah, I've traveled through Texas to Houston in particular. I didn't stop in Dallas, but Houston was one of my big stops. And Galveston, of course, I had to see that and travel all through the south there. Good morning, Tashika. Where are you from?
Good morning. I am in Montgomery, Alabama.
Wow, a long way away. So we have Texas and Montgomery, Alabama. And there's just a few more people coming on right now. I do have the recording going, so we're going to hear all of this.
Okay.
There's Pam. Pam, where are you from? You can either put it in the chat or you can unmute yourself. That's fine. Usually I have a couple of people from the East Coast as well, Ontario, and I have a couple of people from Minnesota that usually join us. I'm just going to keep an eye on. I'll give everybody one more minute. I just want to make sure everybody has their workbook. Just put a Y in the chat if you have your workbook. I'm just concerned if anybody doesn't have it. I did send the message with it attached. Okay, perfect. So we're going to have a lot of fun here today. And of course, we're going to be creating our own frames and wall art. And I know I'm sharing my screen, so you may or may not be able to see this, but this is sort of what we have. This is the prototype I put together, and that's what we're going to be creating, but we're going to create the whole frame at the same time. So we're going to have a lot of fun. This is going to be great. Okay, looks like we have another person just joining us. You didn't receive it? Okay, I'm going to drop the file down into our chat box here. Should be able to drop it right in. Okay, you should be able to see that. You get that one, Pam?
No, I didn't see it yet.
Okay, it should pop up in the chat any second. Okay.
And
Sounds
in answer to your question earlier, I'm from Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. Oh, fantastic. And Pat, where are you from? Okay, I'll give it absolutely tops one more minute because we've got a lot to cover today. And as usual, if anybody's ever been in any of my trainings, I tend to go into a lot of detail to make it very easy for you. So the time gets away from us sometimes. So if everybody has between an hour and 90 minutes to spend with me today.
I still don't see the file in the chat. Would it be in something else?
It says CDA webinar March 2022. That's what it's called.
Hmm.
And then it's got a bracket 1 around it.
Yeah, I don't see that at all.
Okay, let me just post it there one more time.
Okay.
Hey, we'll keep trying until you get it.
And I apologize. I may have deleted the email and I had cleaned out my trash just a couple days ago.
Okay, so I will try and get it to you somehow.
Okay.
Being taken up right now. I can't email anybody. I have to just push it through on the chat. So it says it's gone through. It's a file called CDA webinar March 2022.
Yeah, I don't see any files there.
Okay. So somehow I'll have to try and get that to you. Let me just see what I can do here. What else? Yeah, everything's so tied up. It shows up in your chat box, Mary. Okay, that's great. Pat, do you see it? Yes, okay.
Hmm.
So it'll eventually get there, Pam.
Okay.
All right, I'm just going to unmute you, Pam, because we need to get started here because, as I say before, I'll just keep an eye on to see if anybody else shows up and allow them in. I'm on my own today. My team is not with me, so I have to keep an eye on everything. So now everybody should see my screen. It says Cricut Design Academy Frames and Wall Art. All right, so let's get started with this. Just want to welcome everyone. Just a few things. Make sure you're on mute, and I've checked and everybody's on mute. And the workbook, we were just talking about that. In the background, you should probably start Cricut Design Space because we're going to go in there. I like to craft along with everybody. And then get ready to take some notes of the little tips and tricks I give you along the way. That becomes a real important aspect. And then, of course, ask any questions in the chat. I'm trying to put the chat right in front of me so I see them directly, and that'll help along. Now, the little picture I have right here, that is a sample of what we're going to make with the basic shapes inside Cricut Design Space. I believe in doing all of our own thing. And then, of course, these are places to connect with me. If you're not already in the Facebook group, it's Facebook groups Bets Makes. On YouTube, the channel has changed. I put channel Bets Makes. It should have been Bets Makes Media. I will fix that on the slide deck. And Pinterest, it's Bet Maker Creations. Now that's an interesting one with Pinterest. I had Bets Makes. They deleted my account and then brought it back, but I couldn't get my old name back. So I had to come up with something. It's just our frustrations of life, right? And then Instagram is Bets Makes. And of course, my blog is Bets Makes. All right. So what's happening today? I hope you'll be able to stay for the whole presentation because I want to have a Q&A at the end so you can ask me all kinds of questions. And if you haven't already, as I mentioned before, let's get Cricut Design Space up. Today, we're going to be working entirely within Design Space. We're not going to upload any templates. We're going to create our own and our own graphics with ease. And I know you're going to just absolutely love this. You're going to be learning how to design your own frames and adding your own art into the frame. Now, I've also used these frames that I make, and sometimes I have grandkids, so they paint me these hand paintings and all kinds of little things. And I make the frames and I just stick those little hand paintings, I trim them up and stick them inside the frame. I have them all over my walls instead of my refrigerator, so it works out extremely well. Now, just in the chat, anybody here not taken any training from me? Anyone? Are you all familiar with who I am and what I love to do? Oh, you haven't, Mary. Oh, great. Oh, it's your first one, Tashika. All right. So you're going to have a lot of fun. You're going to understand. I just love to develop people and show you how to do things. Now, my background sounds a little confusing because I'm a university professor. I was a corporate training professional. I actually worked in the San Francisco Bay Area. Actually, I worked in Silicon Valley for Cisco System for a number of years, doing the engineering training. Now, I know it sounds a long way away from crafting, but I've been crafting all my life. And of course, this is my true passion. So I decided a few years ago, I had enough with corporate life and I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And of course, that's getting back into my crafting and making things. And if you can see my office behind me, I have a lot of flowers and things. So if none of you have taken any of my challenges, you might want to consider those. Of course, I've developed hundreds of training programs and I've written, it says more than a dozen books. I've written 163 books, but a lot of them are all on corporate training. I have now a number of books, of course, on the crafting realm. So, but it's not about me today. It's all about how I can help you go from where you are now so you can create some amazing things on your own. And you know, that's a real key to the whole thing, is that you are going to get out of this exactly what you need, not what I need. All right. Now, is this how you feel? I always ask people these questions. I feel overwhelmed and afraid to take my Cricut out of the box. I've had quite a few people in my classes that are like that. I'm not confident about working in Cricut Design Space, although I might know enough to be a bit dangerous. You should be making some amazing projects easily, but don't know where to go or how to do it or where to find the files. You admire other people's projects and you feel you'll never be able to make that. Or you even get into messes when trying to make things and often waste a lot of materials in the process. And you thought the hard part was opening the box, but that was only the beginning. How many of you feel that you fit in these categories, one of these 6 categories, all on your own? Just put a little yes in the chat box. Absolutely, yeah. I know, and being a beginner and starting out from scratch is really a tough thing. And, you know, you get templates and you make something, you get a template and you make something, but then you're not feel like you're getting the whole creative side of you out in front. And that's an important aspect of what's happening here. Let me see if I click. All right, so this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to do an overview of the commands we'll be using in Design Space. We're going to be using shapes to create the frame outline. We're going to double down on score lines. I'm going to show you little tips and tricks of what I do for score lines to make them really work for me, and how to easily make some layers and taking basic shapes and making other objects. I mean, that's the whole key behind it. Now, you've probably been seeing all my emails this week, and because we've opened up the doors for enrollment for my class, and I'm just going to take a second or two just to mention what it's all about. A lot of people going, oh, I don't know if I can take a course or something to that effect. But I put it in 3 different classes, and each are broken down into 3 different projects. And each of those projects are 3 different things. So you actually do 9 different things in one of the classes. And I break it right down so it's simple and easy, and you learn a lot about Cricut Design Space in it. And, you know, there's projects in there that you may think that, oh, I'll never be able to do that. Like we make a panda bear, and it's so easy once I show you how. And that's what I try to do in my courses, because I can't always do webinars every week. I've decided to put a lot of my stuff into a webinar. But, you know, that's the program as an overview. This is the email I think I sent out today, was what Ray Wynn said. She took it for the first time a year ago, and she thought she knew a lot, wasn't sure if she was going to get anything out of the training, and was really surprised at how much she learned during those classes and how much she picked up. She's now designing all of her own stuff, and she's from New Zealand. All right, so let's let the class begin. And everybody have Design Space open? I just need a little yes in the chat box. Okay. Now, some people have had a little problem with dual screen. Is everybody okay with going between what I'm saying and watching my screen and working on Design Space at the same time? Does anybody have issues with that? I just want to make sure that you'll be able to follow along without any problems. If you can somehow split the screen, I have a giant screen, so it's easy for me, but on the smaller screen, it's even Alt Tab sometimes. Okay, you're good with that. All right. Yeah, most people are okay with that. All right, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. Please tell me if I'm going too fast, because that's going to be a key part of it too. And if you need me to go over anything a second time, I don't mind doing that at all. So here are the basic operations that we are going to be using today. We're going to use a lot of slice, weld, position, duplicate, and attach. Those are the 5 basic ones. I throw in 1 or 2 extra as we're working through if we need to use it. Now, I do a lot of this designing on the fly with you as I go through the program, even though I've pre-done some. That was just my example to make sure my theory worked. But now I'm going to design alongside you, and we're going to see where we can take it from there. All right, so we're ready for Design Space. We're creating a frame for wall art. We're adding score lines. We're making everything 3D, and we're going to create art in layers to fit your frame. All right, I am going to switch my shares here. And let's see, find my Cricut Design Space. Just want to make sure everybody can see that. Is it showing up okay? All right, as you can see right in the middle here of my screen, this is one of the test frames I did. I did another one for a sample for someone else. It was another frame. They look pretty easy. And then this is the layered project that I completed for everyone. I'm not going to open any of these. We are going to start right from scratch. So let's click on New. Now, the biggest problem with Design Space, we are limited to a width of 11.5, but we have a length, we can go up to 24 inches if you have one of those long mats. Anybody here not have a long mat? Okay, Mary, you do not. Okay, we are going to design for a 12 by 12 mat. That's the first decision. So what we want to be able to do is have something that's going to fit. So the first thing we want to do, let's just go in and get a shape. And I'm just going to do a square for now. My first thing I always do is I always change the color. Let's make it a nice yellow in the background. And I'm going to make it a width up here on size of 11.25. And that is just so it fits within the realm of what we want to do. Now, 11.25, actually, it might be easier if I make it 11 because dividing with a fraction. Okay, first thing's easy. Oh, I see someone else is going to come in. So that is the very first thing that we're doing, of course, is just making the outside frame. We know it's going to be a maximum of 11. Now we have to decide the kind of 3D frame we want. Do we want just a little 1/2 inch roll, or do we want a 1/4 inch roll? Well, I'm going to do a mix of both because what we want to do is have our frame roll over. Now, to start that, I'm going to position this square, and this is the important part, to 1 and 1. And that's just so I can mess around here in the corner. And then it's easy for me to measure things. So if we want to have a frame roll over, let's see if I've got one over here that I've cut before. We know that we are going to need a bunch of score lines. So we need a 1/2 inch up, a 1/4 inch up a 1/2 inch across, a 1/4 inch down, and then the 1/2 inch underneath. So I need 2 1/2 inches and 2 1/4 inches, and it's the order that I put them. So at the top, we want to have a 1/2 inch score line right across the top. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Shapes, and grab a score line. Now it hides itself right there. Just going to bring it over here so we can see it. I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees. And we know our square is 11 inches, so I'm going to change its height to 11. And I'm just going to bring it over here, and we wanted it 1/2 inch down from the top. So we know our X position is 1, and that's this side. We want it to go from 1 to 12, but we want it to go 1/2 inch down. So since we're down 1 inch, that becomes 1.5 for our Y. There's always a little measuring. Now we have our score line, perfect. We don't have to worry too much about it. That's the first 1/2 inch one. But now on the next one down, we want a 1/4 inch. So I'm just going to see what I'm going to do with this one. Yeah, we want a 1/4 inch. So let's just duplicate this. Now it's also going to come down here to 1. And then instead of 1, and it's come right down to 1.75 automatically. So we have our second one. So we have the big one, the little one. We need another big one. So we want a 1/2 inch down. So all we need to do is duplicate. And we still want this at 1. But now we need it at 2.25. And we have one final one we want, one more duplicate. Once we've done this first one, the rest of it will be easy. And the only thing we need to change is our X here. So is everybody okay with the number of score lines we have here? So we've just got a 1/4, it's just rising up 1/4 inch. It's not very big. So it'll give you a nice flat little lip. Now, if you want to adjust it so you have 1 inch and a 1/2 inch and 1 inch, that'll give you a bigger, thicker frame. The only problem is it'll give you a smaller amount of room when it comes to placing what you need to place in here. All right, we want to select all those score lines. Let's just grab them all. There's 4 of them. And I'm just going to group them for now so I don't lose them. Everyone okay so far? Because now we have the group we're going to work with. All right, we are going to duplicate this. Drag it all the way down here. So we want that one to be at 1/4. So the top corner here has to be 10 3/4. I was close at placement. 10.75, and of course our X is at 1. So as you can see now, we've got our top and bottom for our frame started. All right, next job is to take this group and this group and group the group and duplicate it. And then we're going to rotate it 90 degrees. And then this is the easy part. Once it's rotated, we just want this to go to 1 and 1. So it's up in that top corner. Now, I can see this is not going to work the way I want it. So because the wrong area is here at the top on this one. So let me just ungroup this. Now this should still be a group. Grab it. Okay, ungroup. Grab these lines. quick. Come on. Am I a group? Yes, I am. Okay. So now I'm just going to flip this horizontal because we wanted to have exactly what we wanted. We wanted this in a 1/2 inch. So we want this at 1.5. I hope I haven't confused anybody. You should see this nice grid pattern. All right. Let me know. Are you okay with those lines? What you're looking for is the consistency here. Now, this one looks a little wide on this one. I don't want that back thing. This looks a little wide. So I'm going to take this group and it should be at 10.5. This is where the adjusting, once you've got the adjusting in, you'll be fine. Now, if we look at that, it looks even all the way around. That's what you're looking for. This one looks a little low on the bottom here. Okay. I got it. I want to select this. Now it is at 10.75. So we want this at 11. No, 10.5, sorry. I'm going to do it one more time so that you can see it. So all we're doing is we're taking 4 lines here. Now we have an even thing all the way around. Can everybody see how even and crisp that is? We have our score lines ready for what we want to put in the center. Now I know putting the score lines in is a tough little thing, but you want to make sure you have the folds. Okay, you're both with you. Okay, we're going to do this one more time. I'm just going to take this, I'm going to group it, and I am going to hide it. And we're going to do it one more time just to make sure. All right, let's just put in a square. And we'll make it yellow just like the other one. And we'll change the size to, not the position, the size to 11. Never feel bad about asking me to stop and do it again. It's really important. All right, now I want to place this at 1 and 1. Okay, everybody there so far? Now, what we're trying to do is, of course, this frame is put together. You can see this at all. So what we have is we have a small area right here. This is a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch. And then we have the front face across here, which is a full 1/2 inch or an inch. And then it has to come down the side in here, the same as the side here. So that's 1 surface, 2 surfaces, 3, and then we have 1 that tucks underneath. So that are the score lines we're putting in so that we can roll the paper. I hope you could see that. All right, so we're going to fix it so that we do the number of lines we need to roll it over in the first place. I'm just going to grab my ruler here, and I might just increase the size to help you a bit, but 1/2 inch seems to work the best. All right, first thing we want to do is the top piece is going to roll right underneath. So we need a score line. And we need to rotate it 90 degrees. And we need to make it 11 inches. So it goes right across the paper. And then we want to match it to this corner. So we want it over position at 1. This is where people get confused, is with the position. And because it's a 1/2 inch, we know this is at 1. We want it at 1.5. Everybody there with that one? You've got your first score line in. It's a 1/2 inch down from the paper. Okay. Just want to make sure everybody can get this far. All right, we have our first score line in position. Now we want to duplicate it. And it duplicates, it moves automatically the 1/4 inch we want, but our X position needs to be 1. We're okay so far? So we've got 2 score lines. We've got 2 more to go. So I'm going to, actually I'm going to take both of these together. I'm just going to group them for now, just so we have the 2. I will duplicate those. And I'm going to change my Y position to 2 and my X position to 1. Now we notice that this is a 1/2 inch, this is a 1/4 inch. This one should be a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to take the one in the center. I'm going to ungroup it. I'm going to take the one in the center out, and I'm just going to move it down below, because what we're trying to do is get a consistent pattern. So this should be at 2.5. So you've put in 4 score lines. Everybody okay with this? So we've got a 1/2 inch to the first score line, a 1/4 inch to the second one, 1/2 inch to the third one, and a 1/4 inch to the fourth one. Just put an okay if you're all right with that so far. All right. All right, let's take these 4 score lines, because I don't want to have to make them again and again and again. So I'm going to take the 4 score lines, those 2, and I'm going to hold Shift and click on those 2. And I'm simply just going to group them. And then I'm going to duplicate them. Now, the big trick here is you want the bottom at about a 1/2 inch. So that will make it at, it was 11.5, should be 10.5. Let me see what 10.5 brings us. And of course, I want the X to be at 1. Doesn't look quite the same, so it must be 10.25. You want to adjust it so everything is looking the same. It looks like I moved that one by accident. That should be at 1. At 1.5. Move the wrong one. Oh, wow. Okay. So that one looks like it's too far up. So I want it down 1/4 inch more. Now let's see where we are, 10.675. So let's 10.75. And it's just a matter of eyeballing sometimes. Now you can see how low that is. And we know we don't have the 1/2 inch that we want. So I'm eyeballing it to get it up 1/2 inch. It is a matter of just placing it. All right, so we know that this is looking pretty even with this one at this point. Now we have to do the same thing on the sides. Is everybody okay with making a duplicate and getting it placed in the right spot? Okay. What I want to do is grab these 2 sets of lines. I think I've just got score lines here. No, I don't want the basic cut. So let's grab these. Shift click these. Sometimes on the screen, it wants to add this one, but I don't want that one. So, okay, so we're going to do it by hand. I'll click here in the layers panel, got that one, and shift click to this one. I want to group those. So I have one group. I want to duplicate. Now, the thing is, I want to flip this 90 degrees. So because that way I don't have to make the ones on the side. Now I want this to be at 1 inch down and 1.5 here. So 1.5 here. And 1.5 and 1. Now when I click away, you can see that we've got a nice even pattern all the way around. Does that seem a little easier this time? The big key here is you want your top one to have a 1/2 inch in and your top one to have a 1/2 inch in. Now, when I look, sometimes some of them look a little smaller. But that looks right when I look at it. I just eyeball it, it looks pretty good. Okay, so we have the group of lines. We have those lines, and I'm going to do shift click those lines, and I'm just going to group those together. And the reason I'm grouping them, because if I play around in here, I don't want to mess things up too badly. Now, this is going to fold over, so we can have a design that's going to fit in. We know we have a 1/2 inch we're going to be missing. First thing I want to do here is in the shapes. I just want to grab another square, and I'll just make this purple so we can see it. I'm just going to approximate what this is. So it looks about 1/2 inch, 6.625. We just need it small enough. 6.5, I think would work well. And that means that our design that goes in the center is going to be this size. Okay, so we have another square here, 6.5 square. Yeah, it might be easy to come back and then just watch it again. Now we have all of our score lines ready pretty well. We could just score it up and away we go. But we also need to cut out these little corners right here. And the reason we want to cut the corners out is because folding over the corners is going to be tough. So once again, over to shapes. Just going to line it up eyeball wise right here. Doesn't matter if I get a little extra. And let's just shrink it. Okay, I'll start up there. I'm just going to cover up the corners. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I want these all to be the same size. Doesn't matter if it goes over a little bit. All right, I have one in this corner. I want to put the same thing in all 4 corners. So I'm going to duplicate this. And then I'm going to take these 2 and I'm going to duplicate and just move them over. Looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to shift click and select all 4 of those squares, and I'm going to weld them together. I'm going to choose the 4 squares, and then I'm going to choose the big piece in the middle. I just want to make sure I've got that, the 4 squares and the big piece. Did it select? Yes, it did. I'm going to hit slice. Now I can get rid of this piece. And I know the other piece is going to float away. Okay, so I get rid of my squares now. Now I've got some yellow squares and I'm going to have to select them from here. And I'm going to delete those. And now we have the corners cut out of our frame. And now I can still see the other score lines, which is just fine. Going to arrange this and send it to the back. Now, I never worry about deleting score lines that are going over the top because it makes no difference when you're doing a cut. Now, in order for our frame to fit together, we know we have to cut off the edge. And we need to cut off an edge that goes from this corner right here. We want it that 1/4 inch up and a 1/4 inch over. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to take another score line. We're going to make it 45 degrees. Okay, I'll start on this side. And we are going to put it over top of the angle that we want to make. See, where's my squishy part? Okay, so I want that to come up to, just eyeballing this. All right, so what we want to do is cut on an angle the first 2 holes. So this one, I've got to just back off a bit. There we go. So it comes to this one. Now, when I'm lining it up, let me just zoom this in. What I'm lining it up to is the intersection of these 2 score lines. And I want to keep it down to the second, and then it comes across this intersection. Really important that you do that part of it. Now I'm going to change this from a score line in operations to a basic cut. Now I need 2 more cut lines, and then what we'll do is we'll duplicate this in each corner. So let me grab another score line. This time I'm going to change it to a cut line right away. And what I need here is, I'm just going to reduce it down. I need to line this up to the top and bring it down so it touches this particular line. All right, now, if I didn't cut it off, I'll just tell you exactly why. I can't take this one apart right now, but if I don't do the miter cut, you won't get this matching up. If I don't put this extra line, it'll show a big gap like I do on this one. Can you see the gap in there? So this will give you the miter cut with this with the 45 degree line, and then the cut down is going to give you a better match with the fold, so everything fits tightly in together. Does that make sense, Pat? Okay, so now I have this one, and this one's not, the cut isn't quite 100% there. Let me just move this a bit. Make sure I come through the line. Okay, that looks good. So all I'm going to do is this one is I'm just going to duplicate it. I'm going to rotate it 90. And then I'm just going to drag it over here where we want it. And that should be at 1 and 2.75. I quite often just eyeball these ones. Now I'm just going to have to group those 3 lines because it is original score line, it won't let me do anything else but group them at this point. So I need to put these at the top and the bottom. Let me just zoom back down so I can see my whole square. Trust me, this is the last piece we're going to be doing on the frame. All right, so I have this. Let me duplicate it. And I'm just going to bring it down here. I guess this here would be better. Try to get it to match where I want. See if that worked. Not 100%. Okay, so I'm going to have to take that group. And what I want to do with that group, I guess I'm just going to have to flip it. Okay, now it should work down over here. That looks better. Unfortunately, that's, yep, that one did not work the way I thought it would. I'm going to have to flip it one more time. This happens quite often. If I flip it vertical, nope, I didn't want to flip it vertical. Flip it back, there we go. Now it looks better. You just keep flipping it until you get the shape that you want. Yeah, that looks fine. Okay, so I'm going to take the two of these. I'm going to group them. I'm going to duplicate them, and now I am going to flip it horizontal. Should be able to just bring them out to what you want right here. Getting exactly what I want. There, that's what I wanted right there. Oh my goodness. That one is slightly off. I'm going to have to back it off just a little bit. There we go. And maybe up a little bit. It's going to be very approximate right here, but generally that's what's going to happen. Now, we're all ready to go ahead and cut our frame based on this. So what I want you to do is just grab it all and just attach it. The only adjustments you might want to make are with these extra lines because you want them to go through the intersection. So maybe I'll just detach this and we'll just show you to play with this thing. Now I've got these, I'm going to ungroup them. And I've got this one and I am going to ungroup it so that I get the line I am looking for. Should come through just like that. I'm going to move it up a little bit. It's not perfect, but it will work for what we want right now. There we go. And this one looks a bit much up here too. Just this line. I'm going to ungroup it. Just bring it down just slightly and over. And that one looks okay. All right. Going to take it back. I'm going to attach it again. Now it takes a little bit of practice to play with these. If you don't want a miter cut, don't worry about those extra lines that I put in. Just cut it the way it is and you can roll it in. You'll see there'll be some overlap. So you kind of need a line across in order to make it fit together. And that's the only difference. So your frame is ready to cut. Now, what we want to do, of course, is place some artwork into the center. Now, I'm just going to take this guy and it is attached. See up here, I'm going to hide it so we can work on the next part. So this is going to be the back piece of your artwork. Now, you can do several different things for artwork. So we have a back piece, you can have some mountains, you can have some trees. I just want to show you a couple of little tricks you can use with shapes. This is our basic shape. This is the size we want. I am going to duplicate it, and that's going to be our back piece. I want to leave that as is. I want to work on these one at a time. So we're going to create some mountains, and we can do mountains any way we want. I used curves the last time, but sometimes you may want, different types of mountains. You don't have to use curves. I don't tend to use these down here when I'm doing training because it requires you to include, of course, the subscription to access. And if you don't have it, it becomes a problem. All right, let's create some mountains. Let's just start with a nice little shape like this. We'll make this one a nice dark purple so we can see it. Now you can start with some basic hills. I always tend to unlock these, and I can play around with what the shape's going to look like. And I'm going to duplicate it and maybe twist it just a little bit. So I get an upper mountain coming up here. I'm going to duplicate it, come down here and maybe twist it the other way. Now I've got kind of a mountain shape here. Take the three of those and weld them together. And of course, what you want to do here is cut those out of this particular item. But in order to do that, to make it really work well, I'm going to grab another square and unlock it. I'm going to put it together like this so it matches with the cloud, and pick the cloud and the square. And I'm going to weld it together. Now I've got two pieces, select them and slice. All right, I don't want that piece. I want the purple mountains. And now I have a piece in the back here, and I don't need any of it. So now I've got a nice set of purple mountains that are going to go on top of our original space. So that's one layer. Now we're going to take this, I'm going to duplicate it, and we're going to slice out of that another set of mountains in a different color. And maybe we'll use a different shape in order to do that. Now let's try let's do a triangle. And we'll just make it the next color up. Maybe we want to have some mountains that go like this. I'm going to duplicate. Oop, don't want to move that one. And you can be just playing with these. You don't have to use my shapes whatsoever. That looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to select four of them. I am going to weld them. I'm going to grab another square. Bring it over here. I'm going to unlock it. Get it right up to the edge here. Oh, move the wrong one. Unlock. Just bring it over to the edge, select it and the mountain above, weld it, and then take this piece and slice it. All right, get rid of this. Now I have another set of mountains to fit in there, and I'm just layering them. You don't have to use what I'm using. And of course, this one can be gone. So now I want to duplicate this one. We'll do another layer, and perhaps we'll use a different shape. What kind of mountains can we have here? Let's see what happens with a heart. We'll make that a nice light purple. And maybe I'll unlock this. Sort of, maybe I'll make the mountains go up this way. Okay, let's duplicate it. Maybe bring it down just a little bit, maybe have it go up. Shift click, weld it together. Shapes, another square, and unlock it. Bring that up a bit. Don't want anything showing. Take the two together, weld them, and then slice them. Perfect. Get rid of this. Now I have another layer of mountains. And of course I can get rid of this. I'm just going to use this. It happens to be a duplicate of this. Now I want one more piece that kind of slopes up at the bottom. I'm making this a number of layers here. This is so I can put some trees in because we're going to decorate this as well. So I'm going to my shapes, and what do I have? I'll just take this oval for now. What I'm going to do is just kind of stretch it out. I want it to go in that kind of design. I'm going to duplicate it. Maybe bring it down a bit, just like that. I am going to, actually I want to change the color. We're going to make this blue in the front. So we'll make this a light blue. I am going to weld it together. I am going to take my shapes, grab my square, unlock the square, bring it across. You can see there's a little purple showing, so I just got to bring it up a bit. There we go. Click, shift click, weld, select, and slice. Get rid of this. Now I have a nice little blue layer to add in here, and I can get rid of this. So there we are. We've got a background. I'm just going to align these to the left and align them to the bottom. I don't want to center everything. I just want to make sure everything fits and looks good. All right, going to group it. Not going to attach it because I want to cut these out in all these different colors. All right, next thing I want to do is I want to add some trees in here. Oh, I know Design Space the other day froze on me entirely when I was giving a class. It just becomes annoying. At least you'll have the replay to look at. Oh, Tashika left and came back. Just make sure she gets in okay. There we are. Glad to see you back, Tashika. I didn't realize you had dropped out with a Design Space. Okay, so we have these four layers we made with the background. Now, the important fun part is we're going to use some shapes and we're going to make some really cool trees. So you're wondering, oh, what the heck are we going to do for a tree? Okay, so let's start with the heart. And we'll make it green just because we know trees are green. I'm just going to make this a bit bigger so you can see what I'm doing. We can always shrink them down later. All right, with the heart, we are going to duplicate it. And then what I want to do is I want to align these right at the top here. Looks pretty aligned. Just align to the top. And center horizontally. Oops, no, I don't. Center vertically. Okay, let's try that again. Align, center vertically, and we're aligned to the top. That looks really good. So you've got the two hearts. This is really easy. going to grab them both and I'm going to slice them. Now I have an interesting little part here and another one here. They've got little extra edges. No problem. We're going to use these a little later as the branches. Now, this is going to be the trunk of the tree. So I'm going to unlock it. And we're just simply going to elongate it. I'm just going to make it fairly big here so that we can see what we're doing. All right, about there. Okay, I'm just going to take this piece and just leave it off the side. So now we have the basis of our tree. This is going to be the bottom, the stem. The stem is pointed here. I probably would cut this piece off. So let's just grab a shape. Any shape will do. I'm just going to cut that bottom piece off. Slice it. The only piece I'm interested in is this with the kind of bottom that I want. All right, we have a piece of our tree. Now these are going to be branches, but I see I've got a little extra here that I'm going to have to trim off that I really don't want. So it works with any shape you want to use. I will just grab our square again and let me just move this guy out of the way. I just have to bring it over top of the piece I don't want. I'm just going to change the angle here so you can see it. And they always put those numbers in my face right there, so I can't see what I'm doing. Go right over top. Yeah, I can live with that. Okay, so let's take those across here and let's slice it. And now I've got a nice piece without the extra. And I'm just going to use that one. I don't want to take the one off the other one. No, stop, stop. Okay. All right, now we have a branch. It looks pretty big. So I'm going to unlock it. And I'm going to play around with the sizing. Get a pretty skinny branch. Maybe a long branch. Maybe I want it to go out a little further. Okay, so let's lock that in place. This will be a branch that'll come here. So let's just rotate it a bit. And you can decide how far out you want it as a branch. And then of course you're going to overlap. Now, what we're going to do is create all the branches that we want initially. And then we're going to weld everything together. Now I want this one a lot longer, but maybe thinner. Let me unlock this again. Where did my movement thing go here? Okay, I want it a little longer and a little skinnier. There we go. Let me lock that into place. Move this over. Maybe rotate it a bit so it becomes, you know, the size of the tree that you want. Okay, so let's duplicate this and let's rotate it. I'm just going to do it by hand here. And I'm going to have to flip it so it faces the right way. So what if I flip that way? Nope. Flip this way. And flip it one more time. There we go. So it's facing up. I want those curves up. All right, we have our first two in place, and that's just with the little pieces of a heart. Now you can use other shapes to do the same thing. I'm going to click and shift click both of those. And then I am going to, actually, I want to weld those two together right now. All right, so now I want to duplicate these. I know it doesn't look like much now. And then I'm going to bring it up and I am going to decide, maybe make them a little bit smaller and fit them in. And then I'm going to duplicate, move them up, make them a bit smaller. Maybe a bit smaller yet. As you can see, we're simply building our tree. A bit smaller. And duplicate again. And as you can see, you're going to end up with a nice looking little tree here. And once again, a little bit smaller. See how many more we need. I don't think we're going to need too many more. Maybe one more. Then we have a nice looking little tree. Okay, big thing here is we want to center this all centered horizontally, so it's all in the middle. Well, we're slightly off on this bottom one, okay. Just bring it over a little bit. And you can space them or add more if you want. Now, all we want to do here is just grab the whole thing and weld it together. And now you have a tree. I see you got a little extra piece here, but not to worry about it. All right, if I unlock this, I can have a big tree, a little tree. I can elongate it. And that's probably what I want to do with this one, is elongate it a bit. So now we have our first tree. I want 3 of these. So let's duplicate another one. Maybe we'll make this one a little shorter. And we'll duplicate the big one again. And we can make that one sort of in between the two. And believe it or not, you just made some trees. Now we've got to fit it onto our design here. So we know that those are going to be a little bit big. So I'm going to grab them and I'm going to duplicate them and just put the duplicate down at the bottom here so I don't lose the masters. And just grab these 3. Oh, geez. Come on. I'm going to grab 3 right here. And I'm just going to shrink them down so they're going to fit within our design. And I probably will place them back here. One up here. I could even move this one down here. They are going to cut separately, just to let you know. Yeah. And then I'm going to take that same group. I'm going to make another set of trees that are going on the blue part, but this time I'm going to unlock it. I'm just going to make them a little fatter, just so they're a bit different. And then I can add one here in the foreground, one down here. Maybe when I glue it together, I can put one down here as well. Now these, because we're going to layer everything, are going to stand out by themselves. So it'll depend how you place them. So we've got the fatter trees, the shorter trees, and we made that all with this shape, which came from a heart. All right, so let's just grab this, move it down here. Now we need one of our frames. And let's see, open that group. Oh, where is our group? Did I attach? Okay, I'll just open up the attach here. There we go. So now we have our frame that we're going to cut. And we have all these pieces we are going to cut with all these different trees. Now, generally, I would make the front trees light green and maybe these back trees a darker green. Now, even if you don't do the frame right away, but you cut these pieces, you're going to love what this is going to happen. So I am going to move us over to our demo desk right now. So just give me 1 second here and I am going to switch cameras. If we're going to make this, I would suggest using a medium cardstock. And if you're going to cut the trees, use the setting for medium cardstock, but cardstock for intricate cuts, really important. Now, I'm just going to turn my demo desk camera on here. I just want to make sure it's okay. And I'm going to stop the share here so you're ready to go. I just want to show you how to put the whole thing together. And you should be able to see my demo desk here. Okay, I'm just going to come over here. Hopefully you can still hear me okay. I will move my microphone over closer. So this is the one I had put together before with the frame. So this is, I just want to show you a little bit on the frame on how to put this together. So this is the reason we cut everything, because you're going to roll your frame into position like this. So what happens is you have a bottom fold. Your next one up is for the rise on the outside. So it comes up like this. The next fold, and that's why we had so many, brings it over. And then this last one tucks underneath. As you can see, when I roll it, it tucks, and I roll it and it tucks, and I roll it and it tucks. And now we've got this really cool looking frame with no gaps. Now, if you didn't care about that extra line, you just cut off the angle, you will have it the same way. So no big deal here. Once you've got your frame in position, now you probably want to look at it again just to get the cut. So when I glue this together, I'm going to have this lovely little frame. As you can see, that makes that nice square frame. And then you've got all this area in which you're going to work with, of course, the pieces that we've cut out separately. Now, for the pieces that have cut out separately, I'm just going to put the frame aside. What I use is a small amount of these little square foam pieces. I've cut out my trees and my bottom and everything here. So I'm going to start with, of course, the back that's going to fit over top of this. And I'm just going to use the foam pads because I want this to be a 3D effect. So I'm not going to use too many of them. It's just so I can have this 3D effect with the back. Now the back one, of course, is the more important one to get everything on that 3D effect. I need probably 2 more here. I'm using the really tiny ones here. And I just pull off the tops. All right, so now what I want to do, of course, is turn that over. And align it. I always try to align to the bottom. And then just tack it down. Now, the next piece, we made some other mountains. I made other mountains that are going to fit against here. And of course, we are going to add the foam pads here as well. Won't use as many, probably 6. Now, if you don't have the foam pads, you can simply, add an extra piece of paper in between to get a little raise for it. I don't use a weeding tool to grab these off. Get my fingers right in there every time. So once again, you want to come over here and line it up with the bottom on the side here. There, that looks good. So now we're getting this nice raised effect. I have one more layer here that's going to go in like this, and then I have a final layer here. So this one's going to go like this, or should I have it this way? No, I want it that way. Okay, so I need this open at the back. Okay, we're going to line this one up as well. And one more piece, and this one's going to line up this way. Need that many foam pieces on that one. Stick one in there. Okay. All right, last little piece, of course, are the trees that you want to add. And I've got some darker trees here and some lighter ones, which will go in the front. And I find with the trees that using the foam pads, they're going to stick out and they are going to show. So what I generally do is find the rougher side of the trees, use a little bit of tacky glue, and only on the bottom. And it's going to show initially because tacky glue comes out in blobs. There we go. Only on the bottom piece because you want these to stick up on their own. Now this will dry clear, so there's no issue with having it show through. Side. Don't need to have a lot of glue for these. Just push them in that way, and that they become 3D this way as well. I used a really cheap non-solid core paper when I cut these little trees out, and it didn't cut as well as it should have, but they still work. Trees are trees. Oh, straight. Guess it doesn't have to be straight. So I've got those three. Now I've got my nice big one back here. Now for this one, I'm just going to tuck the stem underneath here. One more. Yeah, actually, I'll stick it over here. So there we have it. This is our little 3D artwork. And then when you glue these edges down, you can just pop it right inside. And as you can see, you're going to have a beautiful piece of artwork right inside. If you decide not to do a frame, well, that's fine too. You will have your 3D artwork. Now, I know the frames are a little tough to understand sometimes, and it's not that easy, but I suggest you come back and you rewatch everything that we did on this particular webinar so that you can see how we put it together. Now I'm just going to stop my screen here. So let me go to the video and come back here. And time to, let me just share one more thing just before we get into the questions. And I just want to let you know, I know this one was fairly complicated. You can watch it over and over and over again. And maybe it was too complicated at the point, but I think you'll really enjoy making it, especially if you go back and you take a look at it. Now, I created this thing called Cricut Design Academy, and this type of training is one of the more, it's not beginner level, but it is beginner level, and I try to bring you through in order to make a lot of stuff. It's meant to be a craft along program rather than I go blah, 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 and you go do some homework. What I want you to do is craft along with me, no matter what program you take with me. And, you know, it's all important because I'd like to have you ask questions at any time. A lot of people will just send me an email with a question. I'm working on this. What did you mean by that? I am more than happy to answer all of those things. And of course, with any program that I have, updates are free for life. I update these at least once or twice a year, every year, add new features as they become available. Same goes with any of the products that I have, just to let you know. And just for this week, we decided, because there's so many different things with gas prices and inflation rates and all of that, that I could offer a super discount, but that ends tomorrow night. And after that, it'll go back to our regular pricing. And I think I've convinced them that $4.97 would be better than $2.97. So on Saturday, it will be $4.97. And I know it sounds like a big amount of money, but if you go through our Shopify store, I have something called Shop Pay installed now. You probably saw the email from me about a week ago. That Shop Pay allows you to pay small payments, I think up to 4 payments for the same amount of money. And that way you get it for installments rather than having to pay a big lump sum. Trust me, you are going to love this program, and the training in it is just amazing. We have, like I said, 3 major projects with 3 different styles of the same project in each of the classes in 101, 201, and 301. They all build on each other. And it's just an absolute fun project. So just a little more information. You may be asking if these classes are for you. They're not. If you can design all your own stuff from scratch, then it's not worth you taking it at all, because you already have all the tools and everything that you need in order to do it. And don't register if you're not planning on learning more about how to work in Design Space and your Cricut. Excuse me. Excuse me. Let me grab a drink of water. Oh my goodness. So that's just a little more information. And you've probably seen this quote from Wendy before. And she was one of my students, and she loved it, loved it, loved it. So if you register today, you're going to get my free SVG collection. And if you buy before the end of the Q&A, you'll be entered into a draw for a Cricut bundle or a scholarship into the 101 program. So it's up to you what you want to do. And let's just now go into our Q&A. I'm going to stop my share. And I hopefully stop coughing at this point. Oh, excuse me. All right, let me just stop the recording.